Hi guys, welcome to the channel. So I wanted to talk about Colin Kaepernick and Harry and Meghan and what the three of them have in common, because it appears that they do actually have a lot in common and a lot has come to light. Starting off with Colin Kaepernick, who has now taken his race hustling to a whole new level. He's turned on his parents. It was only a matter of time that he would do that because his parents are white. They adopted him when he was 5 weeks old. His biological mother is white and his biological father is of African descent. And he has now decided that in promoting his new book, he is going to accuse his parents of perpetuating racism. And another thing that they have in common is wanting to stay connected to the very institutions they claimed were racist. Wanting to stay connected to the institutions they claimed were oppressive, that they had to flee from. Well, Colin didn't flee, he was kind of, So all three of them reek of hypocrisy because they trash the institution that they were connected to, but yet they want to continue to enjoy the benefits of such institutions. So first we have Colin. He had a whole Netflix series, or maybe it was just one episode, I don't know, but I saw the trailer, where he depicted the NFL as slave owners. The NFL executives, the NFL bosses, were depicted as slave owners. And then if that wasn't bad enough, he depicted his colleagues, footballers, as slaves. He had them, in the trailer, they were all lined up, being measured, being assessed for their physical prowess, and they were enslaved. So you're comparing the NFL to slavery. You're saying that it's accusing it of being a modern day slavery, basically. Even though last time I checked, they get paid pretty handsomely and they're not forced to be footballers. They choose to go into those careers. But anyway, so you're comparing it to slavery, yet in his recent interview, and he's never wavered from this, he has maintained that he still wants to play football. Why would you want to be a part of an institution that you claim is racist, oppressive, tantamount to slavery? Makes no sense. Reeks of hypocrisy. And the fact that he's upped his insults to now trashing his parents tells me that it's just another way of making money. Because he's ruined his football career, he now has to up his game with the race hustling. That's the new career path that he has decided to take. And unfortunately, he has now turned on his parents because they happen to be white. And that's another way of keeping it up, the whole race hustling, what they call race activism. Trashing his parents is now part of that, sadly. And it's all because they weren't too keen on him wearing his hair in cornrows, because they wanted him to look professional. Now, last time I checked, that also happens with black families too. There are plenty of black men who can recall their parents telling them to cut their hair so they could look more professional and be more competitive. You're gonna have to come better than that to accuse your parents of racism. So we have Harry and Meghan. Meghan and Colin, both of them are biracial and have found a niche for themselves to appeal to people like me. Let's just be real. Both had Netflix contracts and both of them used their Netflix series to race hustle, to hurt race relations. Harry and Meghan basically threw the whole Commonwealth under the bus, comparing it to colonialism, as if the two are the same. Basically appealing to people who are ignorant, who don't know anything about the Commonwealth and its origins, and banking on people not doing their research. And we're supposed to just take their word for it, I guess. And then we have Colin using Netflix as well to perpetuate something that people watch every week, people enjoy, that people have made careers of. An American institution, which is NFL, pretty big over here, comparing that to slavery. So both of them, they do have a lot in common.
His new graphic novel, Change the Game, written with author and University of Chicago professor Eve L. Ewing.
I love how you depict yourself in this book, not as some big shot hero, but as a shy, insecure high schooler like we all were. I mean, I'm speaking for you, but
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely.
Growing up, I think still am a pretty introverted person. I hope it's true to form, and that's just kind of how I navigate the world.
It's his true high school coming-of-age story, his journey embracing his blackness, despite resistance from many, including his white adoptive parents.
So they adopted a biracial child of African descent, but they were resisting that. Doesn't make any sense. Sure, they were pretty aware that they adopted a child of African descent, yet now he's claiming that they resisted him embracing that. As far as I'm concerned, his parents have been supportive of him. I remember when he used to go back and forth with Trump on Twitter, and his parents supported him. His mother, tweeted a few things in his support. I don't think they're like conservatives. It wouldn't surprise me if they're liberals. And now he's basically accusing them of being racists.
I know my parents love me, but there were still very problematic things that I went through. I think it was important to show that, no, this can happen in your own home, and how we move forward collectively while addressing the racism that is being perpetuated.
He took cues from his icon, basketball star Allen Iverson, who he said wore his blackness like a suit of armor. And teenage Kaepernick wanted cornrows to match.
Yeah, so again, I kind of find that, me personally, I find that problematic. It's a problematic statement, because black people don't need to wear their blackness. It's, number one, cornrows is not who you are, it's a hairstyle, okay? Yes, it's embedded in African culture, absolutely, but it doesn't make up who you are as a person. Wearing your hair in cornrows, it's a hairstyle that anybody could wear. And you're more than cornrows, you're more than your hair, to quote India Irie.
He's getting what roles, his mom asked?
Oh, your hair's not professional. Oh, you look like a little thug.
your mom said that to you.
Yeah.
And so have plenty of black parents said that to their kids. Doesn't look professional. I mean, I've not seen a Fortune 500 boss with cornrows. I haven't. So whether you think that's right or wrong, it's just the reality. It's not considered the most professional hairstyle for a grown man to have, especially a grown man. So, you know, when you're a teenager, your parents are going to instill that in you, that you're going to go finish school one day, you're going to want to go to college, and there's certain choices you're going to make that's going to determine if you're going to be taken seriously or not. Now, I'm not saying you should judge somebody but just because they have cornrows or assume they're a thug. I'm not saying that. Many people don't think it's the most professional hairstyle. A lot of parents believe that and say that to their kids. Even white parents would tell their kids to cut their hair to look more professional. So this isn't anything new. It doesn't automatically, it's not racism just because you say it's racism. It's not automatically, racism just because we're dealing with cornrows.
Those become spaces where it's like, okay, how do I navigate this situation now? But it also is informed why I have my hair long today.
The grown-up version of Eve wanted to go back in time and give young Colin a lot of hugs. And I was really moved and saddened by the level of kind of self-awareness that he had to develop at a very young age without a lot of guidance.
The former NFL quarterback who once led the
Clearly, he grew up with opportunities, with privilege, with a nice family unit, unlike a lot of kids these days. He grew up with opportunities that many kids could only dream of. He had a choice between baseball and football. Many kids don't get those opportunities. You're lucky to even get one shot, and he could choose.
The former NFL quarterback who once led the 49ers to the Super Bowl,
touchdown, Colin Kaepernick,
was known in high school for his baseball. The pitcher even had major league interest, but he bucked public pressure and followed his heart to the gridiron.
There were a lot more black people in football.
Look at his hair there. Maybe your mother preferred your hair like that, as opposed to cornrows. What's wrong with that? Is that racism? Because she's encouraging you to wear your hair like that? Come on now. And I'm sorry, you chose football. It can't be just because there were more black people. It can't be. because that's not a good reason to choose something. It's not. Not everything has to revolve around race. It doesn't. But obviously, he made a good decision. I'm sure he would have, whatever he chose to do, he would have been successful in, because he's a good athlete. And unfortunately, he kind of ruined that by bringing politics and social justice into a sport that, you know, people watch to escape politics.
For Black people in football, that was like, I found some community here.
Do you still want to play football professionally?
Absolutely. I woke up this morning before our events, trained 5-6 days a week. I'm still up at 4:30. I go get my training in. That passion is still there, and the ability is still there.
Why you would want to go back into something that you consider similar to slavery, I do not know. Why Harry and Meghan want to be part of an institution that they claimed they had to flee from. Flee for their lives. Came to the US. Tyler Perry had to rescue them. They had to flee racism. They had to flee oppression. They had to flee being trapped. They had to do all of that just to hold on to their titles for dear life, using their titles to interfere in American politics, using their titles every opportunity they get. They had to flee a racist institution that they still desperately want to be connected to. They're holding out on confirming whether or not they're coming to the coronation, because again, it's another power move. They're using their children as pawns, in my opinion, because again, now they want their kids to have prince and princess titles. Despite the fact that on Oprah, Meghan implied that Archie wasn't given the title of prince because of his African heritage. She said, Oprah said to her, is it because of his skin color? Or is it because of race? And Meghan said, if you want to come to that conclusion, that's a safe conclusion to make, or safe assumption to make. Something to that effect. Clearly implying that it was because of his race. Even after she quoted the George V Convention, which clearly states that it's the grandchildren of the monarch who get the titles. And since, you know, Archie's the great-grandchild of the Queen, they weren't going to get those titles until Charles ascends to the throne after the Queen's death. She knew that. Yet she went on there to imply that it's because of race. Now that their kids have been given the titles, they're claiming that they want their kids to have the titles because it's their birthright. So you knew it was their birthright when you went on Oprah. You knew they would get the titles. Why you would want your kids to have royal titles from a racist institution that made your life a misery, according to your own admission, I do not know. Tells me that those titles are more for the benefit of the parents than that of the children. Even Princess Anne didn't give her kids titles. She basically said she would forgo the titles for her children because being so far removed from the throne, the titles would be more of a hindrance to them than a benefit, because they're basically living like normal citizens. So why have the title of prince and princess when you're living as a normal citizen? That could be more of a hindrance. You know, you're going to work and you're like Princess Zara. It's a bit much when you're going to work. How much more for children who live in America, where there are no royals, contrary to what Harry and Meghan think? There are no royals here. A war was fought to disassociate this country from the royal family. Yet, you've decided that it's in your kids' best interest to go to school in California known as Prince and Princess. Even having a title, Lord such and such or Lady such and such, would be quite alienating, would alienate your children. How much more being Prince and Princess in a foreign country that has no royals? They have Hollywood elites for sure, but royals, no. So you want to tell me that you think that's going to be beneficial to your children, especially from an institution you've done nothing but trash, a family that you've trashed, and you're unfortunately the children have very little connection to because they live here and you've burned every bridge possible, yet you still want those titles. Interesting. What happened to wanting to be linked and not ranked? Absolute load of baloney. And it's all coming to light now. The hypocrisy is more evident than ever. Don't tell me that, number one, they backtracked on their claims, yet they accepted an award for fighting structural racism within the royal family just a couple of months ago, or whenever it was. They accepted an award for fighting structural racism within the royal family. They accepted an NAACP award for their so-called activism when it came to dealing with, issues pertaining to race. When it comes to the coronation, they will be front and center if they have their own way. Yet, again, they have done nothing but trash their family. They want all the benefits that come with being a part of that family, but they also want to make money from trashing said family. The difference between Colin and Meghan, though, is Meghan has actually disrespected her black family too. She basically washed her hands off them, didn't invite them to the wedding, and when her uncle died, she didn't even reach out to her aunt, Pam. She didn't even send condolences. She can send a wreath for Prince Philip's funeral after she done disrespected him going on Oprah while he was on his deathbed. But anyway, she can do that, but she can't send condolences to her aunt, Pam. And this is her aunt who said this to the press. I'm not making this up. Her aunt Pam confirmed that Meghan never reached out to her. And she confirmed that they were not invited to the wedding. It wasn't that they were invited and couldn't come. They weren't invited. One member of her family at her wedding, an historical event. Even in the Netflix documentary, did we hear from her, any of her black relatives? Only Doria. All the black relatives that she claimed, she was surrounded by when she lied and said that her mother raised her, when in fact it was her white father who raised her, but that's another story. Where were they? So again, I'll give that to Colin. I've not heard him disrespect, any black relatives. I don't know if he has any, but still. I've not heard him disrespect any black relatives. And to be fair, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. I do believe he was genuine when he first started this whole taking the knee thing. I believe it came from a good place for him. I don't agree with it personally, but he's allowed to protest how he chooses to. And, that's the form of protest he chose to take. And I believe it was genuine at first because, a lot of people, it was a difficult time for people. I do think though, people within the black community made a huge mistake in elevating many people who were simply criminals. They elevated them to hero status, to that of role models even. And those are not the people we should have been elevating. So I think he played a part in that too. But anyway, but now he's a race hustler. He's ruined his career in football and he has to make money. He needs to plug his book. He has to up his game. And unfortunately, his parents are on the receiving end. His parents who have supported him throughout that whole thing when he ruined his career and everything. I've never heard them speak a bad word against him. Adopted him from 5 weeks old. He's now accusing them of racism. So I don't believe, he's genuine now. I think he's a race hustler like all the rest of them. And they don't care who they throw under the bus to the point where their own families aren't spared. No pun intended. So Colin was a little bit more sincere in the beginning. Harry is just dim and will go along with whatever. And Meghan, her sincerity is as fake as her tan. So let me know what you think. Do you think they have a lot in common? And are they basically going down the same path of this whole race, hustling, causing division, hypocrisy? Let me know what you think. Share your thoughts below. Thanks for watching and take care of yourselves. I'll see you in the next video.